I knew that when I was putting together this summit, I wanted to show you more of a holistic approach to entrepreneurship, how I've been able to stay balanced, healthy, and have an abundant mindset no matter what's happening as I'm building my business. A huge part of that is chiropractor and spinal column stressologist, Dr. Stephen Ward. Steve has helped me so much, not only with manual adjustments, but in analyzing my spine and telling me exactly how much I need to release the high expectations in my life. He's sitting down with us today because he's going to give us a bird's eye view into how the spine tells us exactly what's going on in our mindset, how past generations have really taken a toll on us, and how we can change ourselves from the inside out. This is a fascinating lecture and one that I hope you take plenty of notes on. I will see you inside.
Well, first of all, I'm so happy to be here today amongst all you beautiful ladies. My life obviously has been inspired by my mother in my life and my father. My father was a brilliant chiropractor. He actually saved my life as a young child. I was born 2.5 months early, and back then, that's a long time ago, back then that was not a real good thing. And so at one point, they gave me a 1 in 1,000th chance of living. I have scars on my body from how they fed me intravenously to keep me alive. And at one point I was in an incubator for 20 days or so. And all the nurses were coming in and saying, he doesn't have much chance to live. We don't think he'll make it. And then my dad would go in and lift the incubator cover up and he would give me an adjustment. Then he would leave and the nurse would say, "What happened? It's a miracle, your son's doing better." And so that's really where my life began, with the miracle, having a brilliant father that really didn't understand what he learned over the course of his 50 years of being a chiropractor. But he was brilliant in the sense that he knew I needed something, and what I received was a powerful adjustment like 4 to 5 times a day. And so that was a big issue for me. And then at age 5, I was diagnosed with the Hong Kong flu, and it settled in my spine. And so they put me in a full body cast for 10 months. And out of the full body cast, they said I would never walk. And so that's really where the origin of my dad's work, what he called spinal column stressology, originated, was really to get me walking, living, and growing. And back then, when I finally came out of the full body cast, I really didn't walk for almost 2.5 years. I started to walk and I had an extreme imbalance. So when I would walk, I had this extreme limp. And my dad couldn't figure it out because he would check my body and my legs were balanced, and he just didn't understand it. So one day he flexed my heels to my buttocks and brought my heels down, and he found that I had almost a 2-inch right short leg. So at that point he said, "What if I put a lift on the outside of his shoe? Will that make a difference?" And the Hong Kong flu was a virus, and we now know men who get impacted with viruses, they'll have more right short leg. Men who have vaccination reactions will have right short leg. Women who have vaccination reactions will have left short leg. Those are defensive issues in the body. So anyway, all of a sudden I could walk, which was a beautiful thing. And then I started school. And when I started school, I really started with a whole new set of problems. And I really didn't understand so much because so many kids that I grew up with didn't have the problems I had. And as a result of being premature, as a result of my heart stopping many, many times, I ended up having like 50 speech impediments. So what then happened was, it started my journey. My mom would take me every day to speech therapy for like 11, 12, 50 years. It felt like a long time. And boy, I didn't like it. I really was angry at my mom for putting me through that. But I'm here today because of my mom and her willingness to stay in something with me that was very difficult. And so really where I'm coming from today is those early life challenges, because they really impacted my life throughout a good majority of my life. And now as I get a little older, a little wiser, I can look at those early life lessons in a different way, and I think they'll be helpful to every viewer that views this. Because in my story, I felt this overwhelming feeling of inadequacy. And I felt that inadequacy because I saw how easy things were for some people and how difficult those same things were for me. And so I started unhealthy programming very early on in life. Oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I can't learn. Just the programming that's so effortless to start in life when you start with a challenge, and we all experiences challenges, and then we all have unhealthy programs. And so for people starting business, it's so important that we get focused in on every word, understand every word has intention, and that we want to choose words that strengthen our identity and reality. And so that's really where I began to shift in my life, is having someone say, you know, Steve, you're smart. You're not stupid, you're smart, and you can do this. It may require some work. And of course, I didn't get that message until I was kicked out of high school my junior year. They kicked me out of the whole district because I had missed 52 days in a row. But more importantly, I was given a readmit time clock that was stolen from Wilson High School when I was age 6, and I was in a wheelchair, so they knew I didn't do that. And I was selling forged readmits so that people could miss school. And so I was only going to school to sell these readmits, and I made so much money back then. It was unbelievable, okay? So my senior year, I get kicked out of school, and now I'm in a new school. I don't know anyone. And all of a sudden, I'm going to school. What a miracle. Wow. New thought. And so I only missed one day my senior year, and I had to make up my junior year at Villa Park Night School, so I had to make up 2 years in 1 year. And that began to change how I saw myself. So now we'll jump forward into the work that we're doing that I think is so vital for every human being. Certainly, I'm thankful that I have been given gifts of discernment, so I can look at someone and understand their stress. I can understand their generational stress. I can understand what their parents maybe have experienced and what injuries took place with the parents that they then withheld from their children. Okay? And so my dad started years ago with this concept of studying chiropractic holistically, which, if you think about it today, you understand that most doctors are, if you have a neck problem, they look at a little picture of your neck. You have a lower back problem, a little picture of your lower back. They take the x-rays lying down. They take MRIs lying down. So they're looking at small pieces of a person instead of a holistic view of the person. Well, in the early 60s, my dad said, well, I want to measure this philosophy called chiropractic and see if there's actually science, if we can come up with a measuring system to document the results that we're able to get with our patients. Because it's one thing to believe that you're getting a result, and it's another thing to know that you have been able to get a result. So he hired an aerospace engineer, and the aerospace engineer and my dad developed a measuring system that we have used for over 50 years. And so we look at about 50 measurements in the spine. The x-ray size in our work is 14 by 36 inches long, so we get the whole spine as a single unit, not various parts. And then we look at people in 2 positions of stress, because most people, like entrepreneurs, spend so much time sitting. They're sitting at a computer. They're obsessing on their content. They're wanting, no matter how great it is, they feel inside of them that there's something missing and something in addition that needs to be done. And so, and when we study the seated position, in 99 times out of 100, we're way worse when we sit than when we stand. So just from a basic awareness, when you sit, you're going to be more emotional. And when you stand, you're going to be more in resistance, more in a denial pattern. So if you simply watch a sad movie standing, and then go and watch that same sad movie sitting, you will find yourself releasing emotion sitting that you're not releasing standing. So for people who are working with other people, and when there's conflict going on, and when people may be personalizing someone else's projection, it's really important to shift that focus and shift from a seated position to a standing position, because the standing positions are far more resistance. In most cases, when we see the spine can go right, it can go left, it can go right and left, it can go backward, or it can go forward. We also find that the spinal cord will either overstretch or it will compress. And so for women looking at this, very exciting information, when a woman deviates to the right, she's seeking her mother's approval, and her mother set very high standards for her. So the mother said something like, if you do something, do it right. And then the child said, okay, I can do that. And they go give their best intention. Look, Mom, I got an A, right? And then the mom will say, well, that's good, but you can do better. And so the but is a form of irrational logic, and the but negates the good statement that was said. What's taken me a long time to get clarity on is these issues of inadequacy that I think all of us feel at some level, at one level or another, are actually programs that are coming in multi-generationally. So when we feel inadequate, it may be that it's your inadequacy. But in most cases, the origin of inadequacy is way before your own feeling of inadequacy. Okay? So with that message, I will say this. If we simply change that thought from, if you do something, do it right, and then, oh, well, that's good, but you can do better. If we simply added a little to that and we said, I was taught that if you do something, to do it right, but what I found is when I did it right, I wasn't validated. Okay? If we change that program, what we immediately do is reframe out of multi-generational inadequacy and into our healthy intention. Okay? Because if in my life today, I don't really come from unreal expectation. I come from my healthy intention. I come from giving my best to whatever it is, and I deal with crazy challenging cases. The most severe curvature cases that the world has ever seen, they come to me. Spines that are here. And a spine that's here on a female would deal with the parent wanting a boy and getting a girl. And in those cases, oftentimes when you see such extreme left curve deviation, there's multiple daughters. So as that father doesn't get his boy, now he wants a boy. And he doesn't get the boy, now he wants a boy. And all the ladies are feeling inadequate as a result of not being enough for that father, that in most cases is in his own gender issue himself. Okay? Because most men today operate in right curve. And they're curving right because their mothers were more dominant and their fathers were more absent. And that's why they're curving right. And if the mother's dominant, then that means the mother's father wanted a boy and got a girl. So the mother feels inadequate, and she certainly isn't going to make her child feel adequate. Okay? If she feels inadequate. So anyway, the right curve pattern is much more emotional. The right curve pattern is much more female parent influence. And it deals with perfectionism. And the root of perfectionism is really inadequacy. And if we look at perfect, we see in the dictionary it says flawless or without flaw. And that's pretty much how we're programmed. Is there a flaw? Oh my God, I had so many challenges with that when I had no hair. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I got to do something. And then I realized, oh, I just shaved my head. I look better. You know? And now it's like I get an email the other day, oh, you can grow your hair back. And I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to do that. But in any event, I think it's important that we look at these patterns, and we can see these patterns in every person. And we need to understand with the left and right that right is seeking female approval and left is seeking male approval. And some people deviate left and right, so they're seeking male peer and male parent approval, female peer and female parent approval. And in those cases, when we seek approval, don't you think it's a good idea to ask the question, the person I'm seeking approval from, have I observed that person giving them self-approval when their life is in challenge? Because if they're not giving self-approval, they're not giving you approval. They're not giving me approval. Okay? And you talked about in your little talk about waking up and stuff. Waking up to me is about not needing someone's approval. Waking up for me is about giving my best intention, knowing it's good enough for me, and then encouraging others to stay within self more than looking at someone else to provide them with what they need to get through whatever they are doing. And we see challenges all the time. So most women today are curving left. Strong, independent, overthinkers, overprocessors, rationalizers of hurt, seeking outside approval. A lot of times that root injury is with the father. But keep in mind that is multi-generational. So if I have a father that was unhealthy, it wasn't really personal that father's unhealthy. Okay? It's actually more multi-generational. And we should look at that issue and ask that question, or really look at it and say, should I expect this parent to be healthy who was raised in an unhealthy dynamic? And if my expectation is that they should be healthy, then what am I doing? I'm setting myself up for a major letdown, right? And so I think that as you journey through and you look at life and you look at these things and you realize that they are multi-generational, then we have much more power. We have much more power in not claiming something that isn't ours as if it's ours. Whew, that was tough. Wow. In any event. So when we go into the right curve patterns, we need to understand with women that's more of a breakdown pattern. So when you see ladies who are in late stage cancer and immune compromising diseases, those ladies maybe never emoted, never showed any emotion prior to their cancer, but now that they're in cancer, they're breaking down and crying all the time because the curve has changed from a logic curve to an emotional curve. I saw this with my mom. She didn't really cry much, and then all of a sudden she was in a head-on collision. And then all of a sudden she's like, crying all the time, right? And it was because her body had adapted to what it knew, but it didn't know how to adapt to that new force, and that new force of a head-on collision through her backward curve, resistance and denial forward. And when that happened, that resulted in emotional breakdown and emotional hysteria. Okay, so anyway, just be conscious. If you're left in a curve, that means that the male in you is the driving force. And if you're right in a curve, that means the female in you is the driving force. Okay? And then just be careful if you're a woman seeking male approval from a male that was abandoned. Okay? Because how many men are right curve and have experienced father abandonment? A lot. And then how many of those men's fathers were abandoned? A lot of them. And so when we look at patterns of behavior and we look at strong left curve ladies, what are they attracting? Right curve passive men. They're not attracting dominance because a dominant is not going to work. If someone tries to tell you what to do, whoa, big problems there, right? No, it's not a good idea. Ask you, and you'll do anything. But tell you, it's a whole different deal, right? Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to spend a few minutes on right and left curve because I think it's really important that we start looking at those things. I see many more gender cancer dynamics in left curve ladies, at least early onset. And men in prostate testicular cancer, always right curve. A prostate cancer man always has absent father, always has dominant mother, then always attracts dominant wife that has father injury and projects her hurt through mental punishment onto that male. That then takes that hurt internally. Okay? Whereas testicular cancer would be more of an issue of fourth born son. Mother wants a daughter, names the daughter Jamie, names the son Jamie, dresses the son in like dresses or whatever. Son has long hair, you know, those kind of things. So gender is a huge issue, I think, for the female entrepreneurs, because I think the super women, the super powerful women on the planet that are going out there and transforming the world oftentimes are left in curve. And so their mental dictates their physical. They don't say, oh, they say, oh, I got to do this. I have to do this. Oh, and all these other things. And they never say, is that okay for my body? Do I have the energy to do that? They're never really looking at the energy outlay relative to that mental demand. Okay, so it's so simple to go through life and always obsess in the logic and always feel like there's more to do. And we have to be very careful with that, because ladies ultimately go into fibromyalgia. They go into blowing out their adrenals and thyroid. They go into chronic fatigue. When we use all our stored energy reserve, then all of a sudden there's no more energy left. Then guess what? You can't even get out of bed. And I've seen this, it feels like for 1,000,000 years, 28 years in doing this work. It's a long time.
Well, we see our people that are fellow launchers, and they do this huge launch, and they make tons of money, and then they end up in the emergency room with exhaustion.
Right.
All the time.
Right. So if we just change the language on that, if we just go into it with this thought, how can I do what I'm getting ready to do and save energy in this process? At least start our mind off on a journey of saving energy, not depleting it. I just gave you a huge one. A huge one. Don't look for validation from people. Just don't do it. You know, I'm open. People, oh, you're crazy. Oh, I've heard that before. You got to come at me deeper than that, right? I'm not going to weight someone's projection. I'm open because that's what being humble and neutral is about. It's about sitting here and watching a brilliant speaker and watching in 10 minutes how you just went bam right through it. Wow, I recorded it. I'm going to transcribe it. And because I'm female dominant, so I don't know, I may be more female than male, you know, just from the standpoint that I curve right. Okay, so it's really exciting for me. But anyway, look at saving energy. It's so vital. Look at not looking for outside approval. Very important. Recognize that injured people cannot give you what you need, and don't think that it's about what you're not giving or doing. Give your best intention, validate it. I gave my best is good enough for me. Powerful, right? Because it doesn't matter so often with people what they attain. It's not the outcome, it's the journey. And so when they attain the outcome, most people aren't celebrating it. Most people are setting higher expectation above the outcome they just attained. Instead of, wow, this is amazing. Look what has been accomplished. Let me sit with this. Let me take a couple weeks and resonate in the greatness of my actions, right? Let's save energy. Let's not deplete energy. You brought up a question that you gave me about neck and shoulder pain. How many ladies have neck and shoulder pain? Okay. If your neck's in pain, you're dropping your head too much. You're side sleeping fetal, you're sitting with your head down. When the head goes down, the spinal cord overstretches. So if you're a peak performer, if you're a high expectation person, you're already stretched on the cord. Okay? Because people who are stretched on the cord looked for validation early on in life and didn't get it, so they pushed through and they became greater. And then they push through that and become greater. So they're always stretching themselves to be enough. Okay? And here's the beautiful thing. We don't need to stretch ourselves to be enough. We need to know we're enough. Okay? I look at it scripturally. If God created us in his image and likeness, then God did a great job on all of us. It's not our job to fix us. It's our job to let go of who we're not. When we look at scripture again, we look at how multi-generational behavior comes down and impacts every life. Okay? And so it's not really about, oh, I'm fixing me. No, it's about letting go of who I'm not. I'm not my mom, who had a dominant father that felt inadequate that she wasn't a male. Okay? And so if I bond with that, then my whole life is seen through those eyes. All right? And so I take off the glasses. And when I take off the glasses, I see my life through my own loving eyes. Brings up a point. The other curve is, are you going backward or are you going forward? Well, when people go backward in curve, their fathers are absent, who had absent fathers, and they have learned to deal with their hurt, especially if they're left and backward, if it's a female left and backward. They have dealt with hurt through internalization, through processing hurt, through rationalizing hurt, through withdrawing from the hurt and denying the hurt. Okay? That's the backward and left curve. Oh, I can't show I'm vulnerable. Oh, I can't possibly let you know you hurt me. Well, it's the biggest issue I feel in cancer patterns today is the inability to be vulnerable over your hurt. And if all you learn to do is get in your car and outwardly say, when so-and-so said that, it made me feel this way and that was hurtful, it would be a step in the right direction. But what ladies are doing, a lot of ladies, because I've studied their spines for so long, is they're not doing that. They're not vulnerable. They're going off on their own and going in their room and having their breakdown. They're not expressing their hurt to the people that hurt them. Okay? So my point I wanted to bring up, but I get a little carried away, the hair gets in my eyes, I gotta clear it out, is that the point I really want to make here is that a lot of times people are confused on purpose. What is their purpose? One of the biggest issues I think for any entrepreneur is to understand what their purpose is. And so often people will be like, well, my purpose is to make money. Or my purpose is to have a successful business, or have this beautiful home, or have this wonderful car, right? And I think those are all great. Those are expectations to attachment. They're a belief that when I attain $1 million, that will be enough. But I've studied this issue for a long time, and I'll tell you this. When people attain $1 million, they want 2. And when they attain 2, they want 4. And when they attain 4, they want 10. Okay, so purpose, when we see backward curve, and you can see with people, they'll toe out, they'll lock their knees, and they'll lean back. And if they're doing that, they've had father wounding. And if you ask them what their purpose is, in most cases, they will tell you they don't know. Okay? And so here's the golden nugget of the day, I feel. If you get this, I think your life is greater in every way, shape, and form. The golden nugget is our willingness to love self. When we fall short on our goal, when we attain our goal. When someone's critical or when someone's kind. We meet any fear-based projection. Do you know what a fear-based projection is? Okay. Fear-based projections are anytime someone judges, blames, shames, guilt, criticizes, resents. Anytime someone projects their feeling of inadequacy through a high expectation. Those are all fear-based projections. And when we're dealing with fear-based projections, it's so important that we understand Scripture again teaches us to put on our full armor of God. And the reason why we do that is the world comes at us in fear. And when the world comes at us in fear, we are to block it. That's healthy denial. We are not to accept it. So when someone's critical, I go, oh, you were criticized. Oh, someone abandoned. Oh, you were, or rejects. Oh, you were abandoned. Oh, someone set an unreal expectation for me. I wonder who set that unreal expectation for you. So my mind has been reprogrammed to look at these things clearly, not from confusion. And so I will say this for the camera. I was on a medical panel just last year. And I was on with 4 medical doctors. It was so funny. They didn't want to shake my hand. You know, I'm a chiropractor. You can't shake your hand. I'm like, oh my gosh, how exciting. And so anyway, we get on this panel. and they asked me, I was the person to start the panel. Well, where would you like to start? I said, with a question. And my question was, how many people told themselves they loved themselves that day? Well, there was like 400 people in the room. How many hands went up? 0 hands went up. We were at the end of the month, and I said, well, how many people told themselves they loved themselves this month? How many hands? 0 hands. And then I said, how many people have never told themselves they love themselves? Every hand went up. Well, what's the problem there? Then we love codependently, not independently. And when we love codependently, that's why we fall in and out of love very quickly. Someone makes us mad, I hate you. I loved you, but now I hate you, right? Because if we are not strong in our own love dynamic, then we get manipulated. Okay, so the backward curve, when we see backward curve, we know that deals with confusion over purpose. And if we do get people clear on their purpose of being about loving self, then their life transforms, because they can then come from life and claim their love, claim their joy. They can be patient with themselves. They can come from a peace from within. They can be kind even when someone's not. I have people that aren't kind. It's like, oh, it doesn't bother me because I have my armor on. I put my armor on every day. And in healing, if you don't, you walk out at the end of the day like this, like you're at 90. Ugh, right? But if your armor's on, you walk out like, wow, did I even work today? Okay? Because energy is more about your need for outside influence to support you in your vision. And if you want more energy, then know who you are and take the load off looking at someone else to provide you with what probably is best to provide to self. Okay? So that's the backward curve. And then the forward curve deals with dominant mother, driven mother. So when you see ladies who are right and forward, their mother, nothing was ever good enough, and that mother's male dominant. So that mother feels inadequate, that she wasn't a boy, and now her need is male approval. And if you're a female, you are not getting it. And how many people here have known a dominant female that you struggled with? Okay? Yeah? Well, why is that? Because dominant females look for male approval, not female approval. And if you're a female, they don't care. They don't care. And they can be ruthless, and they can, just say hurtful and hateful things and do hurtful and hateful things. And then we get traumatized, and we shouldn't get traumatized. We should see it with empathy. And when we see it with empathy, we should realize that they're injured, and their injury is about their trauma. And their trauma has nothing to do with the business. Recently, I will say this, I paid $2,000, oh my gosh, to speak for 10 minutes. Wow, I thought, this is unusual. So anyway, what the heck, I've never done such a thing, so I'll do it. I go up and I meet the seminar guy because he has agreed to let me read him live, which can be a vulnerable place. And he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I look at your posture. I can kind of tell you what happened to you in your life. And he rolled his eyes, whoa. And I'm thinking, wow, that's really cool. So I said to him, I said, well, I don't even know if you know your dad's name, but you certainly had a dominant mother. You've attained at every level. Were you straight A's all the way through school and college? Oh, yes. But because he never received the validation from his mother, he always has to set higher expectation. And that's why his unique selling proposition was about helping people make $1 million in their business. Okay? So what he was attracting was all the people who felt inadequate, not people who felt adequate. And so after I got done with a 2-minute reading, oh, you're not reading me live. It was great. So he said, but I'll pick someone. So anyway, I did this little spiel. They gave me 24 minutes. I felt really blessed with that. And then he brought someone up, and I did a reading on her, and she breaks down. She starts crying. And I never cry. I never cry. It was a beautiful thing. And she was supported and loved. And so afterwards, I ended up treating close to 300 people. Okay? So it was really a life-changing event because I don't go in front of groups too often, open to it, because, the world needs to be healed. And when we stop carrying dysfunctions that are not ours to burden, we start seeing the glory and the greatness in our action. And when we start seeing our healthy intentions and following through on them and then supporting them and realizing that you love yourself no matter what the outcome is, then you don't have to get sick. You don't have to end up in the hospital after grinding out something, okay? And those ladies who are ending up in the hospital are not right curve, they're left curve. And their root injury is with Father and what they didn't receive. And they're trying to prove that they're valuable by what they attain. And I can tell you that it's just a misdirection, okay? And so anyway, those were some of my thoughts for today. I'm certainly hopeful that they made sense. And just be very conscious of purpose. Make your life about a purpose of love. Be willing to start your day by saying, I choose to love myself today. And be willing to end your day by telling yourself you love yourself. And if you can do that, then you've really attained the greatest thing that you'll ever attain, especially if we look at it scripturally. Because Scripture says, oh gosh, Arthur is so much better at this. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8, I think says, above all things, we're to love. If the first fruit of the Spirit is love and we're not doing it, then what are we doing? Okay? And the second one's joy, and I will say this about joy. No one takes your joy as an entrepreneur. And no one has to give you your joy. Joy is in every person, but it needs to be claimed. So when we claim our joy, we just simply say that I choose to be joyful today, no matter what the outcome is that I'm heading into, okay? And realize that if you're coming from love and joy, your life will be so much easier. You will be able to look at your life when you've accomplished it all and realize, wow, look at all this stuff that I've been able to do in my life. And you'll be able to really feel that amazing process. And you can do all of that without destroying yourself. And that's really the message, okay? From an adjustment point of view, my belief is that people should be adjusted front to back, not on their stomachs. And so if you're seeing chiropractors and they're adjusting you down and you're a driven person, they're going to increase your forward curve. They're going to break you down. The body's going to break down. My belief is the best thing to do is adjust people front to back. And I do it standing and sitting. And I use a wall over here. I've used this wall many times. That's why my hands are so tough from all these adjustments. And proper adjustments are really important. Also understanding that if you are having severe neck and shoulder pain, call my office, get a seat wedge, a little sloping wedge you sit on, which will counterbalance the forward curve. And then you can always pick up a soft foam collar, wear the collar with the high part under the chin if you're experiencing a lot of neck and shoulder pain. And when you do that, your head's supported by the collar. You can wear it sitting and side sleeping, and it will transform the neck and shoulder problem. So even without a chiropractor, you can begin to bless your health and life by a support that supports you during your time of greatest demand. Okay? But most importantly, don't rob yourself for a moment of the beauty and the greatness and the goodness and the amazing gifts that you all have. Do not rob yourself of that. Fully experience it and be thankful for it and be open for all the greatness to come, knowing that you're not better when greatness comes. You're still great. You were great, and now you just have evidence of your greatness. Okay? And I'll end with this. A lot of ladies think that the more they do, the greater they are. So what are they doing? They're running companies, and they're raising kids, and they're wives, and there are a million other things. And they get into this misdirection of thinking the more they do, the greater they are. That needs to stop. The more women do, the more tired they get. And if they start to realize that it's about balance and being energetically balanced, when I'm tired, take a break. allow some rest to come in, allow some energy to come back. It will benefit your heart, it will benefit your soul, and it will allow you to resonate on the gift that you are. And you all are amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. And I'm thankful, to be here today to express some of these thoughts with you. So, thank you.